This is HBR News number 507. Oliver Anthony finds out Diddy and Weinstein updates, where we discuss the news of the week and give it the Badger treatment. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. Hope you guys are doing well this week and that you're laughing at all of this absurdity so that you're not consumed by it. I am your host, Brian, and as always, I'm joined by my lovely co-hosts, Hannah and Dr. Ranmercam.
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Hello, everybody.
I understand that it's really hot in London or in the UK right now, which...
I apologize if you can hear my fan. I keep trying to turn it off while turning my microphone on at the same time. It's like it's like musical chairs. It's like trying to spin plates, but I think I can do it.
Yeah. No, well, we can't hear it right now, but that might be because it's not on. But yeah, I understand if you have to use it, so don't sweat it. So... Anyway, welcome to the show. We have a great show lined up for you guys this week. Lots going on. I had to narrow it down. Sorry, not going to be talking about Israel and Iran today. I know that people have opinions on that. Feel free to share it, but I think that things in that part of the world, as well as Ukraine and Russia, change so quickly, and there's so much going around that it's best to just wait until the dust settles and then talk about whatever happens, whatever has happened from there, anything really significant. But
and we're not going to be talking about the investigation into the grooming gangs in Britain either.
Yeah,
because fuck the Jews and fuck the Muslims. I mean, we don't really give a shit. Fuck it.
Yeah,
let's talk about what's going on with our cultures. How about
that? The ones that have a chance. So anyway, on this week's HBR News Shows, we're going to be looking at the latest updates in the Sean Diddy Combs case and Harvey Weinstein's case, respectively. And there was an assassination of a couple of government officials, which has sparked a lot of controversy and debate and finger pointing. And we just want to see what we can do to clear the air on that and all the narrative surrounding that, as well as some recent things that happened with Oliver Anthony, which, if you haven't heard, it should be fairly interesting. So stick around. It's going to be a good time. And be sure to join us afterwards for the patron-only show. I found this on Ms. Magazine. It's from a few months ago, but I never saw it. It was sort of like a year in review thing. And I don't go to Ms. Magazine very often, but yes, it still exists. And yes, it's still a tremendous force in the world of feminism. So much so that apparently Ms. Magazine has the ability to judge other feminisms to find out which feminisms are feminism meaning right. And so they have a roundup of the best and worst quotes of 2024 by Livia Follett, a collection of this year's most inspiring and infuriating things said by and about women. You'll notice in the title, it doesn't say anything about feminists. It just says women.
Gotta realize this magazine is the magazine that Gloria Steinem started. It literally is a psyop, and it is the most solid bit of evidence that at least the second wave of feminism and everything that came after it is a psyop. Probably the first wave was as well, because we went back and traced, and it's actually been establishment from the beginning, from the roots. So you could call it a psyop, although obviously when feminism started, there was no such thing as the CIA. But
yeah.
And just one more thing about modern women, shall we call them, white women in the countries in which they exist.
White women in distress.
White women. And one more thing about the grooming gangs in Britain. British people have noticed that the only people still defending the Pakistani grooming gangs are middle-aged white women. And people are sort of up in arms going, why is this happening? Why would these white European women be the only ones left defending the Pakistani grooming gangs? And I'm like, it's so more obvious than you think it is. It's because modern women are like modern governments. They're not interested in defending women or helping women or defending or helping minorities. They're only interested in controlling their property And by their property, I mean the men of their own nation, namely, in this case, white men. So in this case, white women are only interested in punishing white men because it's the only thing in their political vocabulary. No matter how much non-white men and white women are sort of having disputes of some kind, the only solution they can think of is punishing white men. So yeah, I hope that explains as many of the hot topics going on this week as it can. We've been under the thumb of modern governments and modern feminism, whose only solution to anything is punishing white men.
The same
Yep.
is true of other women too. Like black women use black feminism to control black men, and we've talked about like when one culture conquers another culture, the women of the culture, as their men are just being killed off, they join the conquering culture. What ends up happening then is they use the gynocentric female victim narrative to control the new culture, and in particular the men of the new culture, because they're the ones that are going to be doing the heavy lifting, and it happens every time. So the men who are in Europe right now, who are not native to Europe, who are watching the white women of Europe use you to control the white men of Europe, just wait, because they'll be coming for you next.
All right. Well, if you want to join us to partake in us reading through this article from Ms. Magazine, you have to become a badger yourself by going to feedthebadger.com and setting up a monthly subscription. $5 a month will get you into our Discord, where you'll be able to watch all of the additional content, like all of our patron shows and lots of other exclusives. And there's also lots of other things going on in the Discord. So please consider joining the Discord by becoming a member, feedthebadger.com/subscribe. Or if you just want to check it out for free, you can check out the free version of it by going to badgernation.online. And if you don't want to wake up one morning to find that our content has been finally permanently removed from the mainstream internet, then please, well, first of all, you should be following us on our alternative platforms. We are streaming to Rumble. It's HB Radio on Rumble, so just look it up there. And we are also on Kick now, which is also Honey Badger Radio on Kick. So with all that all out of the way, let us now get into today's stories. All right. So, in the latest developments in Harvey Weinstein's New York sex crimes retrial, Judge Curtis Farber declared a mistrial on June 12th, 2025 for a third-degree rape charge involving actress Jessica Mann. This followed Jessica Mann. She was in some B movies, so I don't really know. Not a stellar career. I looked her up. Don't recognize her from anything. This followed a partial verdict on June 11th, where the jury convicted Weinstein of a first-degree criminal sexual act against Miriam Haley for an assault in 2006, but acquitted him of a similar charge involving Kaja Sokola from that same year. The mistrial stemmed from the jury foreperson's refusal to continue deliberating, citing threats and bullying from another juror, including a comment about meeting him outside. Tensions in the jury room had escalated over days, with the foreperson reporting feeling unsafe, leading Farber to end deliberations on the remaining charge. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg announced plans to retry Weinstein on the rape charge, with the status hearing set for July 2nd, 2025. Weinstein, who has denied all charges, remains incarcerated due to his New York conviction and a separate 16-year sentence from a 2022 California rape conviction, which he is currently appealing. The retrial followed the overturning of his 2020 New York conviction by the state's Court of Appeals on April 2024, which found the original trial prejudiced due to improper testimony. Jessica Mann, who testified about the 2013 rape, expressed determination to testify again, stating, quote, "I will never give up on myself and making sure my voice and my truth is heard," end quote. The case continues to be a significant touchstone for the #MeToo movement, with prosecutors emphasizing accountability despite the jury's deadlock on Mann's charge. Weinstein's defense, led by Arthur Aidala, argues that the conviction may be challenged due to alleged juror misconduct. Was also claimed, again, I'm just pointing out that the reason why these cases are starting to fall apart is because of the nature of consent, which is that consent was supposedly given, and that is essentially all they have to go off of, is to try to convince the jury and the judge that despite the fact that consent was given, there were other factors at play that may have made it difficult or impossible for the women to consent. So anyway, that's
Well,
it. I leave you the floor for which you guys can share your opinions.
what that basically means is they're taking a woman's consent and saying, well, after the fact, I withdraw this, it was invalid. And they're using things like, oh, there was a difference in power, or there was she wanted something really badly and only he controlled her access to it, basically, as the argument that her consent was invalid. But you have to remember that this was not the only way she could have gotten what she wanted. And it sounds like she rode the casting couch, and actually all she got was this lousy B movie part, which sounds really, really bad. And so she's probably this is probably a little bit of sour grapes, in all reality, and that's why she's trying so hard to make this happen. But when it comes down to it, if you look at what the basis for this story is, the jury may be a hung jury or something because the one guy won't go back because he's afraid of another juror's behavior. That indicates that somebody in the jury room is basing their decision-making process on emotion and not logic. Because if you're going through a set of facts and you're trying to make a decision as to what is indicated by the set of facts, what do these facts, if taken together, actually mean about the situation, and how should we describe the situation? Should we call him guilty or should we call him not guilty? Like that's the question jurors go in to deliberate, right? There shouldn't be any emotion involved in making that decision. There shouldn't be. It shouldn't get heated. And if you've ever seen the movie 12 Angry Men, you can sort of see how people's underlying beliefs and prejudices, biases will influence their positions they take when they're making these kind of decisions, and how the individuals who don't have any questions because they have biases will get angry, and they'll get angry at the individuals who do have questions because they don't have biases. And this is something that happens in every type of argument. If you're making a decision in the workplace, what are we going to do about situation X? Where you're making a decision in your family, what are we going to do about this budget problem? It becomes an emotional argument when the facts are not the only thing on your mind. We really want to spend this money on this thing, but if we do, we won't be able to afford to spend it on something else that is important. And your emotion of really wanting, being emotionally attached to the expenditure you want gets in the way of making an unemotional decision about how you should spend the money. That couples divorce over this shit, right? So jurors, when you have somebody who is married to the idea that if she says she was raped, she must have been raped, or there's a political outcome that you think should be happening because of this case, or you have a particular affiliation with, the business or the individual, you have a personal investment in a particular outcome, and the facts point in a different direction, you're likely to get emotional and start bullying and badgering. And you won't argue based on logic and reason. Well, this evidence indicates XYZ. And I don't see where your questions are coming from, or this evidence answers your question. And if somebody comes up with a question that you can't answer from the perspective of the decision that you've already made, then it becomes a moment of curiosity. Whoa, what has he brought up? Let's take a look at this. Maybe the outcome is different than I thought. But if you're married to a particular outcome for whatever reason, then you're offended by that, and then you start behaving badly. And that's probably what's going on here. You probably have either a juror who is looking at evidence and saying, that this evidence isn't sufficient to prove guilt. Is there something that we're missing? And another juror saying, obviously he's guilty. He was found guilty once. We should find him guilty again. And who maybe has, a feminist outlook or something along those lines that's getting mad and threatening him. Or it's the other way around. And you have somebody who is questioning that the lack of evidence, say somebody saying, hey, he looks, from everything that's in front of me, he looks guilty, and somebody going, no, I'm not voting guilty. This was overturned once, we should overturn it again. And we don't know. All we know is that somebody in the room is acting out of emotion instead of logic, and the result is probably going to be, this is going to have to be started all over again, or it's going to be dropped.
Yep, I suspect it's going to get thrown out, and I think that's the reason why the media is essentially like not talking about it right now. Like when the allegations came out, it was everywhere, and then it quickly spread from a situation or a condition of Hollywood or cultural problem with Hollywood to becoming a problem everywhere else. And it was like, oh no, it's not just the casting couch, it's the boardroom, it's the, it's the manager's office, it's your professors, it's your teachers, it's the game development studio, it's the animation department, whatever. And
you started hearing regular women sounding like that Radfem from the women's room. All men are rapists, and that's all that they are. Like the most famous quote from that book. And it's been everywhere. It's gone everywhere, and it's cost people their jobs.
Yeah.
And it's cost some people their lives. There have been people that have committed suicide as a result of false allegations that were bolstered by the movement started by Harvey Weinstein's accusers.
Remember, they used it as a political tool. They tried to use it to ensure that Trump didn't get elected twice. Like in both, well, all three times he ran, they tried to use it against Justice Kavanaugh. They tried to use it. I mean, they use it to get jobs. Like, why does like our film and gaming industry suck so much? Well, because a bunch of talented people got Me Too'd and lost their jobs. And
y'all remember Alyssa Milano sitting at the Kavanaugh hearings?
Yes,
and looking like she was going to.
Wasn't she dressed up like The Handmaid's Tale too? Like,
no, I don't think she was dressed up like The Handmaid's Tale. The weird thing was the way she was looking around, and we watched her at some point, and it seriously looked like she was waiting for something, waiting for a cue or a sign for something to happen. Like she was something, had something off about her at that, and fortunately, whatever it was didn't go down. But I will never forget that, because I'm like, does she think that she's on the set of Charmed instead of in real life?
Yeah, right. She never grew up. But the last thing I'll say about it is that it looks like all of his cases falling apart. The case against him is falling apart. The case against Andrew Tate fell apart. The case against Trump, there was some new developments with E. Jean Carroll that I thought about bringing on here, but apparently like that's still going on. It's still looming. And I think that the media is going to either never speak of this again because it won't go well for them, or they're going to try to figure out a way to spin it so that, it might be both of these things, so that Harvey Weinstein beating this case in the same way that Bill Cosby might beat his case, because I think it's still going to appeal, and many others, is only proof of how powerful the patriarchy is and how men can just do things and get away with it because they have drilled it into the minds of normies so much that this is real and true and this guy's a monster, that no matter what the outcome is, it's only gonna, people are gonna validate what they already believe to be true.
Yeah.
So,
and they're gonna feminists are going to, because they do this already. They're going to generalize it to all men everywhere all the time. And
yeah,
you look at
absolutely. That's the point of it.
right. You look at the way they talk about violent crime. Right, less than 4% of the population are perpetrators of violent crime. All of the violent crime, including domestic violence, is perpetrated by a tiny percentage of the population, and they eliminate the women from that percentage when they're talking about it. And then they also generalize it to all men and boys everywhere all the time. And when you talk about the fact that, most men, over 96% are nonviolent, they say, well, but 99% of this or that crime is perpetrated by men, which may or may not be true, but it doesn't matter. Even if it is true, if it is less than 4% of the entire population, and some of those are women, so we're talking about less than 90 or over 96% of men being nonviolent. It doesn't matter what percentage of the violent portion of the population is male. It still doesn't translate into all men everywhere all the time, does it?
No, no, of course not. Mike, did you want to say anything about this, or should we want to save it for Diddy because they're like kind of similar stories?
Yeah, no, it's the stories are connected. I did watch 12 Angry Men only because it's the 5th highest rated movie on IMDb, so I had to go, well, what's all this about? And it was all about one of the 12 Angry Men sort of going, well, maybe this minority man isn't guilty.
Yeah.
I can't remember what minority man it was. I think it was an African American of some sort.
Yes. And he was accused of a knife crime.
Yes, and some guy threw the same knife on the table and was all very dramatic.
Yeah.
And the modern day equivalent is hard to pin down, even with a knife to a table. I guess the modern equivalent is a man. Like, just because a man is accused doesn't mean he's necessarily guilty. And it takes one of the 12 angry birthing persons to really expose any doubt as to whether a man is guilty. But yeah, we'll get to it in the second story. I have a lot to say about the second story. We'll do it then.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
say, I'm going to assign homework though. If you're listening to this or watching this and you have not seen, go back to the original black and white version of 12 Angry Men. Watch that movie. It's gonna seem dry in comparison to modern movies, but if you really pay attention to what's going on in that movie, it is an emotional roller coaster, and it is a great history lesson. And you really should. It's also a great lesson on the way the legal system works versus how it should work. And you really, really should watch that movie, especially if you are living in the United States and you're old enough or close to old enough to get called for jury duty, because it's something you should have in mind if you ever do get called.
Okay. All right. Well, let us know what you guys think about this story in the comments. We're going to move on to the next one, which is related. It's quite similar. So let's get into the next story. So we're going to be talking about the latest news or updates with the P. Diddy trial, which is also kind of shocking. So the Sean Diddy Combs trial, ongoing as of June 17th, 2025, has seen significant developments in the 6th week. Combs faces charges.
Why don't we pronounce it Combs?
It
would make so much sense if we pronounced it Combs.
Yeah, I guess it would. Anyway. No, it's okay. Combs faces charges of racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution, to which he has pleaded not guilty. The trial centers on allegations that Combs ran a criminal enterprise involving coercion, abuse, and drug-fueled sexual events called freak-offs. Key testimony has come from his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, not related to Jesse Ventura, I assume, who detailed physical abuse and coercion into sexual performances, and another accuser named Jane, which I assume just means Jane Doe because they don't want to be identified, who described similar experiences from 2021 to 2024, including a violent 2024 altercation where Combs allegedly choked her. On June 17th, financial documents were presented linking Combs' Bad Boy Entertainment to alleged freak-off payments, and text messages showed Combs' persistent attempts to contact Ventura after a 2016 incident, including a message referencing her black eye and fat lip. A juror was dismissed for inconsistent residency claims, raising concerns about jury diversity, and Judge Arun Subramanian, wow, I pronounced that, threatened sanctions over a potential evidence leak. The defense has challenged witness credibility, particularly targeting Ventura and Jane's motives, suggesting their participation in sexual encounters was consensual. Combs' attorney, Tenny Geragos, has framed the case as involving, quote, love, jealousy, infidelity, and money, end quote, admitting Combs' violence but disputing criminal intent. Notable moments include Kanye West's brief appearance on June 13th to support Combs. Wow, and a courtroom incident where Combs was nearly removed for interacting with jurors. The prosecution has called over 30 witnesses, including former assistants and a hotel security guard, with some testifying under immunity. The defense estimates its case may last 2 to 5 days, with jury deliberations potentially starting next week. The trial has drawn significant attention, amplified by online content creators, some of whom have faced criticism for leaking witness identities.
A few weeks ago, I can't remember what show it was, but I raised the controversial hypothetical that I might become skeptical with regard to Diddy being thrown under the bus. Only because when Hollywood and the music industry and the degenerate communist factory that controls them, whenever they throw someone under the bus, that doesn't necessarily mean that person is guilty of anything. In all likelihood, it's that this is their latest scapegoat. The degenerate communist entertainment factory is a deeply dark place that takes children from the earliest possible age and warps them into highly disturbed adults. It's very much a cult that requires a human sacrifice every now and again. It's what happened to Michael Jackson. He was put through the ringers of this machine from the age of 11 right up until his death at 50-ish, I think it was. He was denied a normal childhood. So he became a stunted adult who couldn't really relate to anyone except children. That made him the ideal sacrificial lamb for the factory. You hang around with children? Well, shit, Jacko, you do what you gotta do, but don't you dare ever criticize the Jews. Oh shit, you criticize the Jews. Nonce. Everyone call Wacko Jacko a nonce. We'll promise you millions of dollars if you call him a nonce. Step right up. It's going to be a delicious bloodbath of undeveloped entrails. And there's no shortage in fact, there's an overflowing wealth of adults who have been broken ever since childhood, whom we will strap to the altar and plunge a diamond dagger through their hearts the moment they criticize the wrong people. Now, I'm not interested in defending Diddy. I think in all probability he is guilty of just about everything of which he's accused. All I'm thinking of is he's not the only one. I get the distinct feeling that what he's described as doing is the kind of thing that happens at Hollywood parties as a matter of course. like, I've been to university. I went to student parties. I'm not saying they involved the kind of drug-fueled sexuality, debauchery described in the Diddy case. In fact, I didn't get involved in the sexual debauchery whatsoever. I was far too busy with the drugs and the rock and roll. But it can hardly be denied there is a time and a place for everything, and it's called college. Well, the Hollywood degeneracy factory is that times 1,000. There's people who indulge in a decadent, rebellious lifestyle because they can afford it, but times 1,000. It's people holding on to that totemic juvenility for as long as they can because it's their job to harness the juvenile spirit of rebellion for the sake of the billions of dollars that comes with pertaining to it. I guess what I'm saying is, if you think Diddy is the only celebrity who's guilty of this shit, I have a bridge to sell you. Again, I think he probably is guilty of what he's accused, but I think he's only being charged with it because he was the worst offender. There are no doubt countless celebrities who have been almost as evil, but they all agreed to target Diddy and throw him under the bus so they could pat themselves on the back and go, well, at least I'm not as bad as Diddy. Well, maybe not, but the fact that you're getting away with it arguably makes you even worse. In the same way, Tupac was murdered and Biggie Smalls was murdered, but his close comrade Diddy was not murdered. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean Diddy is implicated in anything, but it does mean he might deserve the survivor's guilt to which he might be subjected. And that goes for the rest of you who have been raping and beating innocent nobodies for the last 30 or 40 years and getting away with it. Do you feel bad? Do you feel mad? Maybe you should. And maybe you should fuck off and enjoy your millions in the acute duper's delight of knowing you got away with it. Ideally, you should get the electric chair or something to that effect. Be thankful that you never will, whoever you are. And I won't even name the names who are guilty, because it would probably be quicker to name the names who are not. It's stay away from the Hollywood communist factory, folks. It's not worth it. That's all I'm saying.
I want to point out some things that have been bothering me for quite a while about all of these allegation frenzies, feeding frenzies. The Cosby frenzy, the Weinstein frenzy, the political allegation frenzies, the Diddy frenzy, everything that's happened, all right? When #MeToo started, there was a documentary that came out, and there were some groups that came out talking about it, called An Open Secret, about the sexual abuse specifically of little boys in Hollywood, but little girls too. This happens to children of both sexes, and it has been going on for a very long time. Like, it's generational. It's not even something that just happened to actors when Gen X were kids. This was something that happened. It goes back to the early days of Hollywood, like when Shirley Temple was famous. And children working in Hollywood have been overworked, taken advantage of, tossed aside when they got a little older, ruined pretty much for any other type of work, bankrupted, and then thrown aside. They've been sexually abused. They've been physically beaten and abused. and they've been denied any type of an education for the longest time. Laws had to be passed to ensure that these children actually received a basic education, and their mothers signed on for this fame. And like, stage moms are notorious for pushing their child's fame over everything else and not caring how what is being done to their child ultimately affects the child's welfare. And there were allegations against some handlers, basically, that parents pretty much signed custody over to, and their children lived with these handlers and were taken to parties and abused. They were abused in the workplace. They were just completely and utterly abandoned in terms of any adult that would protect them to the predators in Hollywood. And there have been, if you look at the information that has come out about what has happened to children, various children in Hollywood over the generations, there have been suicides, there have been slow suicides.